Duke. This week we got our first member of the Brotherhood and the Banners, Retired Jersey Club, Mr. J. Will. Really excited for you guys to hear this conversation. And as always, make sure you comment and subscribe to the podcast. And if you like to watch the interviews as opposed to listening to them, head over to YouTube and subscribe there at the Field of 68. That's where we post all of our exclusive video content. And reach out to us on Twitter at the Field of 68 and me at Dre_Dawkins. And let us know what you're thinking. Let us know who you want to hear from next. Hopefully we can try and get them. Hopefully you enjoy this one, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, this week we got a special guest, first member of the Brotherhood and the Banners, I guess. First member of the Retired Jersey Club.
I like the way that sounds.
Yeah. Mr. Jay Williams.
What's up, Dre?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you coming on.
Man, all love, bro. Happy to be here, man. Your family. So whatever we got to do for each other, man.
For sure. All right. So we'll start the podcast off the same way every week. What was your welcome to Duke moment?
So mine was in 90, 98, 99. Sewell was my host.
Mm-hmm.
Which, Sewell now being a coach, I have to be careful what I disclose.
Yeah, for sure. He wanted to keep his job.
Exactly, politically correct. But Sewell, man, was one hell of a talker though, because that was when Duke was rolling. I mean, that's when they had Elton Brand, William Avery, all those guys were there. Corey Maggette was coming in the following year in 99. And being down there with those guys and running with them, I never felt something like that before. Like, I had known Elton because we played against each other when he was at Riverside Church, AU ball. So I was like, EB already had my respect. William Avery kind of busted my head open in that open run. I was like, all right, like I want to go against somebody like that every day.
Yeah.
And just the way that team rolled, man, like they were the team. Yeah. Like that following, like they were that squad. So for me, going down there, kicking it, sleeping on Sewell's floor, going out a couple of nights, having a good time, I was like, yo, this felt like it was big, but it wasn't overwhelmingly big. It still felt small. And for me, like I knew how my mind would work. Like I would get lost if I was in someplace like Ohio State or a big university. So I walked away from that experience being like, and I got my first tattoo on that trip.
Oh man!
I thought I was gonna get this big lion on my chest, Dre. So they did a whole outline of a lion, and they put that needle on my chest, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
And they gave me like a little small, like I'll be show you. This must be maybe like a little small cross. So for me, like, it felt like home, man. It was home.
So going back before that, you grew up in Jersey. What was that like, and when did basketball become like a big part of your life?
I mean, hoops was always there. I played every sport growing up. My dad had me in tennis. I played soccer. I didn't really become fixated on hoop until like my sophomore year of high school, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is.
But the reason is my dad was like, yo, you got to play one sport, man. Like, I'm tired of taking you around to all these damn practices, soccer here, volleyball here, tennis there. And then, I was already into AAU ball, but it just became, ball became my life, Dre. And when ball became my life, but I never kind of believed in myself. It was kind of weird too. You know what I mean? Like, people always like, oh, yeah, but I'd even get, state player of the year, until like my senior year. Like I was always being beat out. There was always somebody better than me. So I didn't come with all these accolades like everybody else. But probably like my freshman and sophomore year of high school is when it clicked.
Okay. And going back to like you not believing in yourself, when did it kind of click for you and say, okay, I can be pretty good at this game?
I mean, when it really clicked was my sophomore year of college.
Really?
To be frank with you. Yeah. I think when it pseudo clicked was probably, look, man, like I got McDonald's National Player of the Year, right? You would think that person would click for them there, but I also got it because I felt like it was more of the package. It wasn't just, hey, like I had like Jonathan Bender in my game that literally went like top 10 in the draft.
Yeah.
Broke Jordan's scoring record during the McDonald's All-American game. So I was like, oh, well, Jay, you're the McDonald's National Player of the Year, but you also have like a 3.7 GPA and, the All Honors Club and all these other things. So I was like, man, I kind of got this award because of all these ancillary things that I've done in my community and schoolwork that garnered me that award. So I felt it a little bit then, but I still didn't feel super confident. It didn't happen to me, really happen into my sophomore year.
Okay. So you mentioned you're having that GPA in high school. What was it? Why was it important for you to have, to keep your grades at a high level? I know for me, my parents were like, look, basketball is cool and all, but you better keep them grades up. So I wonder if it was something similar for you too.
Yeah, because, I feel you on that, man. Like, I didn't want to be, I'll be really real with you. I didn't want to be a dumb jock, man.
Yeah.
Like, my parents always talked to me about that. And my dad worked in business. So it was always like, one of the most valuable lessons I got. Because I was, I never knew if I was going to make it to the league. But how you always like kind of stump when you look here, like, yo, I'm going to get you a car, mom. A house.
Yeah.
I'm going to do all these dope things. We're going to fly on, G4s and get boats and, all these silly things. And my dad always talked to me about, well, okay, like, how much money does the first pick in the draft make? And I'm like, I don't know. He said, oh, you always talk about being the first pick in the draft or a top 10 pick. You don't know how much money they make. So I think from a younger age, I started to get programmed about that if I get lucky enough to go into that world, I should be prepared to think through what will be entailed in that world.
Yeah.
So that's where I always saw education. But, like, look, man, like focusing on history, didn't do it for me. Like math, I was like, oh, okay, like that's my money. Like that's where I kind of try to converge those two worlds together.
Yeah. So getting to that, level in high school where you're the national player of the year and all that, what did you do throughout high school? How did you get better? Did you have a trainer, or was it just you just going out there and just being on the court by yourself? Like how'd you get better in high school?
Man, Dre, so I'm the old man. It's crazy that it feels like yesterday I was 21 years old and now I'm about to turn damn near 40. It's wild, dude. I can't tell you how quick it's happened, man. It's all that wasn't like the game back then. Now I feel like kids from the time they're younger, they got the personal trainers, you got the skills coaches, you got nutritional things. Like I grew up eating cheese eggs, and pizzas and kicking it like that. It wasn't the same. But I also was a gym rat.
Yeah.
But like to me, like being in the gym was a way of staying out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Like my whole story arc is epitomized by that. Whenever I have free time, Dre, I got into, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, sure.
I got into dumb shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when my mind started wandering about like, oh, I don't got practice or I don't got schoolwork. Like I might have kicked it with my boys on the corner in Plainfield, New Jersey, right? And I knew what they were doing. I wasn't doing it, but I was still kicking it with them.
Yeah.
Like, why are you even doing that, right? Like, this dichotomy between how people perceive me because of my grades, and I went to a predominantly Caucasian school, but then in my town, it was predominantly Black, right? So almost the way in my town, like I would try overly hard to show that I was from that town because I was always called the sellout or the Uncle Tom to a degree. Uh-huh. So like, how do you balance that? So for me, like, being in a gym was a way I just it was a safe haven because my game gave me my credentials. Uh-huh. So if I worked harder on my game or like 5-star camps or things of that sort, like I was a kid that always dreamed. I was always in the backyard taking skills that I learned from these camps and just applying it. And I just always stayed working. I was relentless, I guess.
Yeah. You mentioned the camps and stuff. That was like one of the most fun parts about summer for me, was going to different camps and things like that in high school. Did you have a favorite one or a favorite memory from one of those camps?
Man, Pit 4, Howard Garfinkel. I don't know if you ever went to 5-star, but
they were kind of phasing that out when I was coming.
Yeah. See, I'm an old head. See, that's how it happened. Every morning, like at 6:30, Howard Garfinkel, God bless his soul, rest in peace, would play like Frank Sinatra. And if you would wake up in a cabin in the Poconos or in Pittsburgh to Frank Sinatra blasting at 6 in the morning, like, and like there were these things called 6 a.m. workouts.
Yeah.
Right. So I would always see like kids be like, man, I ain't going to workouts. I'm tired. It's too early. And I will always be at the workouts because they were always like the ball handling sessions, right, where you learn about different moves. And I remember always being the dude on the court because I loved it. I loved to work. I don't know what it was, but there was something about, for me, like I wasn't 6'5". I didn't have crazy athletic ability. People weren't talking about me like the next phenom. So I always had some kind of slight. Like one of the guys that was a guy in my year was a guy named Josh Moore. He was like 7 feet tall when he was like a freshman or sophomore in high school, and he was going to St. Anthony's. And it's like, oh, he's this guy. Nobody was talking about me like that. Yeah. So for me, I always saw those type of dudes, but like, man, I want to get that. So in order for me to get that, like I have to work harder than all these cats. So like finding out more about myself through that kind of work during those camps. And then like being able to apply the stuff that I learned in those workouts to in games. And it just, I don't know where it came from, Dre. Then just one day, it just kind of like, it just clicked, man. Yeah. It clicked.
So I assume your recruiting process was kind of hectic. I'm assuming you're getting calls from all over the place. So what was that like? And how did you narrow it down? And what schools did you narrow it down to?
Yo, going into my sophomore year, I'll never forget this. My sophomore year of high school, like mid-season, imagine like, something like 19, 20 points a game, nothing crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember my high school coach, who was my dude, my boy, Mark Taylor, who was like, yo, man, he played basketball at Fordham in the Bronx. He was like, you should really think about committing to Fordham. And I was like, Fordham? Like in my mind, right? Like in my mind, I'm like, man, this dude is tripping. Fordham, like I'm trying to go to the best of the best, but also my insecurity, right, Dre? I'm like,
yep.
Man, like, should I go to Fordham? Like I was getting letters from like schools like Belmont, some of these smaller schools. And then all of a sudden, man, like after my sophomore year, it just skyrocketed. Like, I started getting recruited by, Dean Smith at North Carolina. I'm like, what? Like Dean, I used to wear like those Vince Carter shorts back in the day, right?
Yeah,
go out and try to lower the rim to like 6 feet and do all the same dunks that Vince was doing. Like UNLV started recruiting me. Roy Williams started recruiting me when he was at Kansas. And like Johnny Dawkins started recruiting me at Duke, and I was like, yo, what is going on? But like, also, man, like my background, like I grew up in an environment in which my parents had some issues from a domestic violence perspective, a little bit, a lot of troubling times. So, Rutgers was always somebody that was very close to my heart when they started recruiting me, because I didn't want to go too far away from home, man. Like I wanted to stay as close to home as possible. But so like, man, it probably came down to like, North Carolina stopped recruiting me because they had Ronald Curry that was coming in and Joe Forte.
Yep.
Bill Guthridge kind of like had seen me more as a point guard, more so than like a scoring guard. Kansas kind of fell off because I was too far away from home. UCLA, I couldn't do it. It was just way too far. And it kind of came down like, Duke, Notre Dame, Rutgers, and then my dad loved Georgetown, but John Thompson had retired. So Craig Escher was a new head coach around the time. I wasn't going to go there. So probably came down to those schools, man.
Okay. So fast forward, you choose Duke, get down there, and great decision for us, for sure. And then as a freshman, you start every game. So which is not normal, especially at Duke. So what adjustments did you have to make as a freshman on the fly, like as the season's going? Because obviously college is so much different than high school.
You know this. You know how hard that was.
Yeah.
You know the man that coached us and how relentless it is in his approach to be great every day. Like, I played small forward in high school, Dre. I was posting cats up in high school.
Yeah.
Like banging, getting rebounds. Like, when I went to Nike All-American game, I played point guard. I was diming people up. But like I never had to handle any of that.
Yeah.
So my freshman year was like, I was a deer in headlights the whole year because I just reacted. I was at my best when I reacted. I never had to think the game through. So all of a sudden now I'm coming to a situation where I have a guy who is one of the greatest coaches of all time that played point guard for Bob Knight.
Yeah.
That thinks like a point guard all the damn time. I had Johnny Dawkins, one of the greatest scoring guards in the game, who has obviously thought the game through.
Yep.
Woj was like coming on the scene that time. It's Woj, man.
Yeah.
Like really, like, you go back and you watch video of Woj like slapping the floor, sliding, turning you 3 times before you get to have. I never turn nobody. I'm like, go ahead, bring the ball up, dude. Come on, man. Like, I'm gonna try to outscore you. So for me, like, I never knew what conditioning was. I never had to be an extension of the coach on the floor before. I didn't know how to talk to people. Shane was like, come on, Jay, talk to us. I'm like, what do you want me to say, Shane? I don't know what to say. Like, just go play. Like, and this line, ready? Come on, let's go. I'm like, one more dude says, come on, let's go. I'm going to lose my damn mind. So for me, I was kind of like, it was tough for me, man. I didn't know how to handle it all. Like, I didn't know how to pick my spots. It was just like, whoa, like, is this even what I want? Like, my freshman year was honestly, like, my first couple of games were at Madison Square Garden where we started off 0-2. Like, following the year before, Dre, like, we just lost in a national championship to UConn in 99. So now all of a sudden, Corey Maggette leaves, William Avery leaves, Elton Brand leaves, Trajan Langdon graduates. But it's like this mass exodus, and there were communication issues between the way those guys left and Coach K and what he wanted them to do. So all of a sudden, like myself, Dunleavy, Boozer, Casey Sanders, Nick Horvath, like we're the freshmen who are all of a sudden starting again. It was a lot of pressure, man. So I was all over the place my freshman year, man. And I didn't even know, like, am I allowed to have fun? Man, like, dude, like, I never got this kind of attention. Like, people trying to talk to me. I was just all over the place, man. I was disoriented my freshman year. I can leave it at that.
Yeah, it's definitely a culture shock. I know it was for me because, in high school, you don't talk. There's no talking on defense. You just play, kind of like you said. You just go out, you play. We're better. We're more athletic. We'll win the game, and that's it. And then at Duke, it's it's completely different, and it's definitely necessary. You got to be able to talk on defense and communicate and stuff like that. So it was definitely different.
When was the first time Coach K tested you? Like, he challenged you? How did he do it? Do you remember?
Oh yeah. Remember like it was yesterday. It was a walkthrough before preseason game, like one of the D2 teams we played in preseason. Walkthrough.
I'm sure you walking through it like it's Final Four.
Well, I learned to very quickly. But it was like then he stopped doing it, like I think my junior year and senior years. But we would do walkthroughs just like off the street. So, you didn't change. Because we were just walking through stuff. So you have your jeans or sweats or whatever on that you had on. And so, I'm obviously doing the scout team stuff, running their plays. And for some reason, I have my hands in my pocket. And coach goes, stop. Get in here. And I'm like, oh shit. And that's when I really, it wasn't a conscious thing, putting my hands in my pockets. I just did it. And that's when I realized, oh shit, I got my hands in my pockets. So I tried to like take them out real quick. And so I got a little cursing out there, and I won't repeat every word he said, but I never put my hands in my pockets again during walkthrough. So I guess lesson learned.
I got turned out my freshman year. We had lost to UConn in our second game, because we lost to Stanford in our first game and we lost to UConn in our second game. And we were on the bus after we had landed coming back to Durham. You know how it is, Dre, when you lose, man. It's like it's a death in the family, man. Ain't nobody talk.
Nobody talks. It's super
heads
quiet.
down.
Yeah.
Like I used to, look at the top of the bus and Coach K's like, damn it, like watching tape. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Yo, and Dre, I'll never forget this. My phone was in my bag.
Oh man.
Yo, you see, you already know what. Yo, my phone went off, and I was like, I couldn't find it. And like all these dudes, whose phone is that? Whose phone is that? And I turned it off, and I'm like, like coming from high school, man, like, high school was like Band of Brothers, right? Like,
yeah.
Like Duke was next level Band of Brothers, but high school, like you always did dumb stuff. Like nobody, like Jay, right? And I remember phone up, whose phone is that? And I was like, I ain't saying nothing. I ain't gonna have yet. And Shane was like, look, I was like, come on, Bat. Come on, Bat. Come on, Bat. And I felt the pressure. I was like, it was my coach. No, I've never felt the wrath of a person like that after just somebody's phone went off, right? Yeah. But from that point on, I could tell you, I used to turn my phone off, like off.
Yeah,
power
absolutely.
Off. Yep. Like I'm not even playing with it.
Yep.
So
absolutely, I remember that too. Meetings, film, whatever in the locker room. Used to tell the freshmen, turn them joints off. Turn them vibrate. I'm like, dude, turn it off.
I ain't about to run suicides all day because your ass decided to have your phone on vibrate.
Exactly.
No, you're not going to do that
to me. So going into your sophomore year, is much more efficient. What do you think was the key to raising your efficiency? Were you just more comfortable, or were there some things you changed about your game or anything like that?
It was a combination of things. Number one, I think I finally got the rhythm of, this is how we practice every day. This is how we lift every day. This is how hard we think every day.
Yeah.
I think all that stuff was taxing on me my freshman year. But also, two things. Number one, my running mate came in town, Steve Dew.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that too.
Yeah. And that's my Dre, that's my homie.
Yeah.
Like, C-Dew was my brother. So like there was a lot of pressure that all of a sudden came off of me to not think the game all the time, because C-Dew was already so good at thinking the game that he kind of took on some of those responsibilities. And I'll be real with you, man, that the biggest thing is that, between my freshman and sophomore year, I didn't go home. I stayed.
Yeah.
And Johnny Dawkins and I started working out every day. He's like, yo, I want you to make 500 shots a day. Make 500 J's a day. So I just started going to summer school and training every day. And like, I think one of the things for me, I always said, tried to be so hard, because coach, when he recruited me, was like, yo, you're going to be like the next Bobby Hurley. You're going to, be this type of leader. And almost in a way, I have a little bit of this rebellious mentality, which probably is what got me in trouble later in life. But it was kind of like, I had worked my ass off so hard that summer that I'll never forget. Like Johnny Dawkins was like, yo, if you come here, you have to take it. Like nothing's gonna be like, oh, this is yours, which is interesting to see how like major superstar freshmen to a degree now, like one and done. Like that's changed a little bit. Yeah. I still think Coach K makes you take it, but it's different kind of level that comes in now.
Yeah.
So Johnny was like, yo, you got to take it. So I'll never forget, like, it was that first game against Princeton. And Shane was like, yo, we're going to run this high LA set. And like, yo, I never came off looking at the rims, right? Like I always came off, like, where am I going to dime? How am I going to turn the corner? and I had lost like 20 pounds because I played my freshman year like at 205, like 210. And now all of a sudden I'm like 190. And I remember I came off and I saw the rim. I was like, yo, I'm just about to let this thing just fuck it.
Yeah.
And it went in. And I was like, yo, I can score. Like, and I looked over at I'm sure this had to happen to you, Dre. You ever have that moment where you do something and you shoot a bad shot and you be like,
hell yeah, I had that moment.
I gave a quick look like,
yeah, I'm looking to see if anybody getting up off the bed.
and K, I made it, and it was a bad, and K didn't say nothing. I was like,
okay.
oh shit, I can. And from that point on, man, he started to let me go.
Yeah.
And once he started to let me go, I just ran away with it, man. It just felt. But we also had a squad, though, Dre. Like,
yeah.
We had
y'all were nice.
I mean, how would you guard me involved in the pick and roll with Shane Battier? I got Dunleavy on the wing. I got Nate James on the other wing. And I got C-Dude that could play up, and now I got Booze too.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like we had so many options and everybody can shoot. It's almost like I feel like we were like a college version of the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
So we had too many options. It was fun.
Yeah.
It became fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we had to play off this flash action to a dribble handoff, and it was for you to come off the dribble handoff and get downhill. You know me. I get some. I'm just gonna shoot it. So
because you can shoot that thing.
Yeah. So I'm just coming up and I'm shooting in practice. I'm just shooting it, and so eventually I made enough to where I was allowed to shoot that, and nobody else was allowed to shoot it. Like coach literally in practice was like, Dre's the only one who, if we call this play, Dre's the only one that's allowed to come off and shoot it. No one else is. So like, yeah, that's kind of like one of those things, you were talking about, you kind of look over and you're like, okay, I guess I can do this. So yeah, that just became my play. I would come off the handoff and just shoot it.
I remember when your game started to expand though, Dre, like it was a problem.
Yeah.
So we're like, everyone's like, oh, he's a shooter. Now so you start putting that thing on the ground. I was like, yo, Dre, like, but that takes a minute to get there to showcase that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We'll get back to the show in a minute, but first, let me tell you about our partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook. With March Madness beating down our door, DraftKings is the best way for you to get a little action in on the game. If you have not downloaded the DraftKings Sportsbook app yet, what are you waiting for? It's the safest, most secure, it's reliable, and it allows you to safely deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. And this week, they're offering my listeners a pretty sweet deal. If you sign up now with the promo code FIELD68, you can turn $1 into $100 if one of the main event fighters in UFC 259 this weekend lands a single punch. That's it. One punch to turn $1 into $100. And don't worry if MMA isn't your thing. DraftKings Sportsbook offers odds and promos on basketball, hockey, whatever sport you're watching. But since they're basically giving away $100, you may as well sign up now. Watch a little UFC, and remember, use the promo code FIELD68. That's FIELD 68. Must be 21 years or older. Offer available for a limited time only. Eligibility restrictions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get back to the show. So, 0-1 team, as you mentioned, was pretty decent. What was you guys' level of confidence heading into the tournament that year?
It was high.
Yeah.
It was high. It was like, oh, we're about to win. Like we're going in to do only one thing, to win it. Like, but that's every team though. I feel like even if you don't, but I felt like that year there were a few teams when we kicked it into a different gear that we didn't feel like we could be. Like Maryland was our biggest rival that year.
Yeah, we getting into Maryland. We're gonna get there
because we played them 4 times. So
yeah,
and there was a lot that went into Maryland too, like Steve Blake and Juan and Chris Wilcox and Lonnie Baxter and all these guys. But like they were probably one of the only few teams that, and we even felt different about them because when we started really playing D, like when it we started like scattering around and playing passing lanes. Like teams couldn't really run their sets. So we felt really confident that year going into the tournament. Plus the way we kicked the tournament off, like we just came in beating people's head in. Like it was like, and I don't know, for some reason, those first 4 games, like I was hot. I don't know what the hell was going on. Like I felt good that whole year, but like, I don't know if you felt this during the run there. Like it didn't matter like what I felt like I put up. Like I felt like the ball was going in. Nobody could tell me the ball wasn't going in.
You just
until
had to
we got
shoot
to the
it.
Final Four.
Yeah.
Then the ball wasn't going.
All right. So Final Four heading into March, one of the best March comebacks of all time. Down 22 against Maryland in the first half. Let's go through that game. What the hell happened? Why were y'all down 22? And how do y'all come back and end up winning by double figures?
Well, look, it's no, CC, Chris Collins used to always fuck around with me because he would be like, man, J-Dub, you had a quadruple double tonight. You had 15 turnovers, right? Like, Dre, my game, like either I was on or I was really off.
Yeah.
And I obviously like look our energy level, but I was just really bad, man. I was bad in the first half of that game. But it was always interesting, man. Like it was that psychological thing with Maryland. Like, if we're down 24, if we're playing Arizona in that Final Four and we're down 20, like I don't know if we have the confidence that we can come back and win. Like I'm sure we would have tried, we would have felt like we did, but against Maryland, we were down 10 with a minute left to go earlier that year.
Yep.
And I got hot and we came back and we won, right? Then they come back and they beat us on our senior night at home in Cameron. And then we're down double digits again in the ACC championship. And we come back and we win that game too. So, when you win 2 out of 3 games where you've been down double digits, you come back and win. Like, I remember Shane said it during the huddle, during the halftime. He's like, yo, if we kick into another gear, they can't rock with us. They can't play with us. So we just came out in that second half just feeling different, man. And when we kicked into that different gear, like they couldn't run their sets again. And we just felt like we psychologically had an advantage on them because we had done it before. And all it took was a small run for them to recognize like it's about to happen again. And when you got that crutch, man, like we just ran with it.
Yeah. So during that game, as you guys are coming back, you get down to 11 at half. Going into half, did you feel like, yeah, they feel us and they know, like, because I don't know, it's hard to explain if you haven't been in games like that where, like, especially big comebacks, you can feel that the other team feels like we're probably not going to win, even though they're still winning. They know what's coming. Did you feel like they knew that going into the second half?
I mean, I'm never going to say that Maryland knew that they were going to lose. Like Steve Blake I hated playing against that dude. Yeah. Like, and I love him because Steve Blake and I roomed together at 5-star camps in USA basketball. It just, like, let's go through it. Like, Steve Blake or Chris Duhon, who you taking?
Duhon.
Myself or Juan Dixon, who you taking?
You.
Shane Battier or Terrence Morris, who you taking?
Shane.
Lonnie Baxter or Carlos Boozer, who you taking? All right. Okay.
Or yes, maybe a wash. Lonnie was a monster for y'all that don't know Lonnie. Lonnie was a monster.
I'm with you on that. Lonnie was a monster. I'm still taking Booze. Mike Dunleavy or Chris Wilcox?
Dunleavy.
So, like, at the end of the day, they were a good team, but we didn't feel like we were a lesser team than them.
Right.
But we felt like we were more talented than them. So, for us at times, it felt like when we became a little bit fractured and when guys tried to do too much, or if I just turned the ball over a ton, our talent was better, but we just weren't collectively as a team. But if we collided both of those things together, like our talent and our team discipline, we felt like they weren't better than us.
Yeah.
Right? Like they had to have the perfect game, it felt like, to beat us. Whereas we felt like we had a little bit more margin for error, which we proved out. And so I think during that time, like when we started to make that run, it was like, yeah, let's go. Like, this is who we are. We know we're this team.
Yeah.
We just got to play the next 20 minutes at this level.
Yeah.
And if we do, we don't think they can beat us.
What were the timeouts like in the first half? What was
I mean, I know you said we can curse, but I ain't trying to go back to you know, to be real with me, I don't remember a lot of them, but like there's always they're just, you know, you get there and it's, first off, like playing in the dome was different for me. Like I never, it's, you know, that feeling, man, like when it was loud, like I couldn't hear myself think. Like, you know, you're trying to use hand signals for plays and stuff. It just took a certain level of acclimating to that because we didn't play. The only other dome that I ever played at in my life was at Syracuse, where I lost my freshman year, you know, to Florida. So it was just different. Like and they had came out hot, man. Like they had came out making shots. Meanwhile, my ass is going up and I go up for my first shot and I'm like, yo, where is the rim?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I'm just seeing Stan. I'm like, like just like a dart. So like it just felt different. And K was typically, I mean, he's always intense, but I think during that first half, he was just trying to get us to calm down, like in his own Coach K way.
Yeah.
Right. Which is still somewhat intense.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like he kind of had that same feeling that you were talking about? Like, look, if we just play, we'll be fine. If we play like we should.
I'll tell you, I mean, like that Maryland game, the first game that we played against him at Cold Fieldhouse, when we were down, like I stole the ball, like I made a layup, I stole the ball, I made it 3. We came in the huddle, it's like, we're going to win this damn game. We're going to win this fucking game. And I think from that moment, it was just like, he always gets you, you know, this, like, there were certain things in my life that like I still try to harness his energy for, because I felt like there was nothing I could not accomplish when we were behind him. Like he made me believe in things that I would never believe in myself. Like Kyrie just talked about this the other day. He was like, you know, in his post-game presser, he was saying, you know, I believe in something bigger than myself. Like that sticks with you, man. You know, that's 90% of the battle, believing that you actually can do something. And he was always great at getting us to that point when we didn't believe in ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel that for sure, because I remember times coming to the bench and I'm like, man, this game's rough. And he's like, we're gonna win. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we're winning then, I guess. Like, I don't know how, but it's not looking like we are, but he said we are. So I guess we winning then. Yeah.
He said
and
that.
Sure enough,
no other choice but to believe.
Yeah, sure enough, we go out and find some way to win the game. Like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if he had some kind of something, but yeah, he would say something and he'd be like, okay, yeah.
Whatever juju that was, I wanted some of that.
Yeah, for sure. So win a national championship. Were you player of the year that year?
I snuck in one, like the National Association of Basketball Coaches, but Shane got every other one.
Okay. So, you know, first team All-American, grab a player of the year award, national championship.
I'm out.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what? Yeah, how did you come back after that? You're better than me, because you know I'd have changed my phone number. Y'all wouldn't have been. You know.
Well, I try to give you a little bit of context, right? So I mean, that's only 2 years removed from this whole mass exodus, man. Like, where. So I'll tell you this moment that it got me. I got like, and I didn't know how to backpedal it. But I've never told a story before. So like, we win a chip when we come back to Durham, and we're wild.
Oh yeah. No,
you
class,
already know what's happening.
No class, no nothing.
Nothing. I'm wilding out. I mean, I'm drunk every day. Like, yeah, what we doing today? It did not matter. I did not care. I'm over at Carolina on Franklin Street. Like, what? Come here. What's up? You good? We got a chip. So. we come back and we have our celebration, right? So, we're inside Cameron's packed. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, K's up there. It's how Cameron, when it's wild, right? You feel the whole building moving. Shane gets up there. He says his words. Nate gets up there. He says his, because they're about to go off into the sunset, seniors, champions. Then they're like, my chant I had back then was, Jay will rock you, rock you. Like I was like, so they started this chant, right? I wasn't expecting to get up there and say nothing. I don't know what I'm going to say. So I get up there and I'm like, yeah, I told you we were going to do it. And they're like, one more year. And in my mind, I'm like, what did I say? I'm coming back next year.
Oh, like, man, they got you.
What did I? And I said it. I remember I got up. I was like, Mom, I don't know why I said it. And but like once again, man, like I was insecure, right? Like I didn't know, like I'm getting calls from people. Like, I get a couple calls from like, a 202 number is like MJ asking me about different things happening because he was kind of a player with the Wizards and what they were doing. And I started talking to Coach K about it, and I didn't feel like I led that team, right? But like, to be real with you, man, like I should have left. Like I should have been a top pick in the draft, but I didn't, maturity-wise, feel like I was ready. Now, I mean, you tell me how my life worked out. I mean, I graduated from school in 3 years. I had my accident. I don't know if 1 year really makes that much of a difference maturity-wise. I think I'm curious how my career would have been if I did get drafted number 1 overall that year to DC, and I start my career off with Michael Jordan. Like what that tutelage would have meant to me, as opposed to, and I love him, he's my boy, Jalen Rose, right? Like Jalen Rose is my bet in Chicago. Michael Jordan would have been my bet in DC.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, that's
right?
not. Yeah. That's no shade at Jalen. That's no just. Yeah. That's no shade at Jalen Rose. That's Michael Jordan. Like,
it's
you can't have. You can't have a better.
It's different, but we had already kind of put together this plan. Like, hey, I can graduate if I overload my courses. I wanted a team to be mine, and I kind of fed into like, maybe if I have a year to pay my own bills to a degree, like live off campus, maybe try to be more of like a man and like, this is my team moving forward. I decided to go that direction. It was still, it was a great experience. Like my junior year was a great year. We didn't win it. But it was my team, and, Dunleavy, myself and Booze, like it was our squad. It was just different, man. It was different. So, but I still, I wouldn't change things because my life worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
Yeah. What was your mindset, or what was it that you going into that year? I know I'm coming back. I know I'm going to graduate. This is going to be my last year. What is it that you were trying to accomplish going into that year?
I wanted to win every damn thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to win. I felt, I told you, like, I was never that kid that was like the guy. So I think there was always like, who is the guy? Who can I measure myself against? So it was like, I got one National Player of the Year. Fuck, I want to win every National Player of the Year. You start making these narratives up. I'm like, the last time Duke won back-to-back championships, they won it in Minneapolis and then Indianapolis, right? And I was like, we just won our last one in Minneapolis, and the next championship is in Indianapolis. Like, we're about to do this again. Like, I want to do it again. But I wanted this one to be a team that myself and Dunleavy and Booze led. Like, we led. We were the Shane Battier senior-like moment. But I tell you, if there was ever an omen that kind of set the tone for that year, it was that summer, man. Like, I was like, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm staying down here again because I was overloading my courses. And then I broke my third metacarpal in my left hand, dude. And I started freaking out. And I was like, this is exactly, how it is, Dre, like agents, runners, all these people had like been around me and my family for a minute. So, and Duke had tried to do the best job to kind of wean those people off, but like you can't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You can't, man. Like it's the next.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, I told you. So I think for me, like it was hard because now all of a sudden, like, do I lose my draft position because I'm hurt? How will that ultimately affect my earnings? I don't care what anybody says, as much as Kay tried to say, hey, like, throw yourself into what the team is doing or you're thinking about the draft, like, how could you not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how could you?
Life-changing money.
And like, it made me appreciate Bat even more because, Bat's draft status really skyrocketed his senior year, but like to manage all that, like people coming at you, your draft status, are you doing what's in the best interest for the team? I also, and Dew and I talked about this, it's kind of like weird. I'm like, me coming back another year, like, does that hold Dew back from Dew being the dude?
Right.
Does it hold other people back from them, like, grabbing the torch and taking the mantle? Like, I know how everybody else felt about it too. So it was kind of like a turbulent, weird year in general. Like we were still hooping, we were still that team, but there's just a lot of factors, man, going like Booz is getting, he was going to get drafted. That was his last year. Dunleavy was hooping like he was going to be a top 5 pick. Like there are a lot of things that came into that year.
Yeah, for sure. Where would you put, this is going to be a tough question. You might get some text about this one. Where are you putting 2001 on the all-time Duke list?
I think we're top 3. I think, a 91-92 team, just because of the accolades that they got.
Yeah.
Back to back. G Hill, Late, Bobby.
Yeah, that squad was just stacked.
Super talented.
Yeah.
And that 99 team, man, loaded.
Yeah.
Avery, Elton Brand, Corey Maggette, Trajan, Sewell, Bat, a kid named Mike Chappelle, I think.
Yeah. They're about 3 points away from being just one of the best teams ever, period.
Ever. And I was like, I was at that game. It was like one of those games, right, where like UConn wasn't as talented as Duke was, right? Just team wise, they were a little bit more. I was Khalid Amin,
Rip.
Yep, Jake Bosco, all this stuff. Yeah, that's right. Rip was on that team. Damn, legendary Rip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but I don't know, man. Like think about like time wise. Like I went 2, Bat went 4 the year before, Dunleavy went 3, Booz turned out to be a perennial all-star. Booz probably got, paid the most out of anybody. Duke played in the league for a long time.
Yep.
That's a pretty good starting 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
All right. Got one more tough one for you. Are you the best Duke player ever?
No.
No?
G Hill, man.
G Hill?
I'm not. I talked to him randomly, but even like Kai, even though Kai was only there for like 11 games, I remember seeing him do shit. I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't know what it is.
Kai was different. I remember like as soon as he got there, first couple practices, and I'm like, this dude he shouldn't be here. It's not fair. He should not be at this level. He should go skip straight to the next level, man.
Who plays 10 games and is still the first pick in the draft?
It was crazy because like they would, just to make things fair, in the preseason, they would put Kai and Nolan on opposite teams. They put them 2 on the same team. It's not fair. Yeah. And Nolan
can go.
Yeah, I had watched Nolan the year before, and then I knew him going into that year. I was like, he's a monster. And Nolan will tell you himself, Kai was on a whole nother level, and Nolan was, and without Kai that year, Nolan averaged 25, 5, All-American, ACC Player of the Year, all that good stuff. And in practice, like none of us had nothing for Kai. Like he's coming off. I remember this one. He came off a ball screen, tried to trap him, split the trap, goes up and gives one of these to one of the Plumlees. Yeah, one of the Plum. They're swiping at it, can't get to it. And I'm looking and I'm like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we can't do anything about that.
Nothing with that.
Man. And then I remember when he was coming back, he was doing a scout team for Hampton.
Oh, that's the worst when he's on the.
Yeah, he's on the scout team. So it's like I'm on a scout team with him. And you know how scout team just in general, you just get to just kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
And so, so you get a little bit more, you're not worried about like messing anything up because it's like, whatever, we're doing scout stuff. And so we're just having a ball. We're killing the starters because Kai's just going crazy. And so we run one of the Hamptons plays and he does something crazy and scores. And coach goes, because we all look at coach because we just kept scoring. So, we're looking at coach and he's like, don't worry about that. Their guy can't do that. I was like, yeah, that's probably true.
But I don't know who the best ever. I mean, G Hill, Shane probably had the most like storied career.
Yeah.
All-time winningest. There was a player who I really appreciate because it's really funny. Like if I had stayed my senior year, like I would have been the same year as JJ. One of the things I've always appreciated about JJ is like, years later, like this is where like this is only JJ is so like linked to me, like they're both similar like personalities. So like forget like I've been out of the league for a while. I'm doing TV and stuff, and Jay's in the league, and we're somewhere in Durham, and Jay's obviously in the NBA, and Jay's like, "Yo, Jay, Will, if you just stayed the fourth year, do you think I would still be the scoring champ?" I was like, Jay. Like I rock with you, man. But like just that question alone, like I was like, all right, JJ, you know what? Respect. You got that in you. I like that. You got that in you. Okay, I see you. I like that. So
the answer is no, though.
It's all good, man. I mean, he deserves it. He's one of the best shooters the game has ever seen.
Oh, so. Yeah. JJ was awesome to watch. So I want to talk. We got a couple minutes left.
No, it's all good. We can go over a little bit, Dre. Cool.
All right. Obviously, with the accident and everything, your basketball career ended earlier than you wanted it to. Did you have a plan for what was next post basketball, or had you even not even thought about it yet?
Man, you gonna make me take a sip of my drink on this one. Nah, man. I was so fucked up, Dre.
Yeah.
It was I don't know what I was thinking, man. For me, you can only imagine like becoming that guy that I never thought I could become.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally felt like after my rookie year, it kind of felt similar to my freshman year in college. I was like, how do I figure this out? Like, you know how it is, man, too. Like, there was no togetherness I had in the league. It was, I was by myself.
Different.
Yeah, I was by myself. And Duke had been so, like, I had teammates that I rocked with, that I kicked it with. And so towards the end of the season, I was kind of like, I got to do my own thing. And I started to play a lot better and started to believe in myself. And because I felt like I could score against anybody. It didn't matter if it was AI, Kobe, Jason Kidd. Like I had triple double against Jason Kidd. I was like, yo, I feel like I can do my thing here.
Mm-hmm.
And then for that to happen, because ultimately it was a decision that I made, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about anything. Like I spent a lot of time just really being lost because I felt like because of my poor decision, not only did I hurt my dreams, but also like my parents, man, like my mom and dad had sacrificed a lot for me to get to where I was at. And, for them, my mom was like, meeting people like Arnie Duncan, who became Secretary of State, Barack Obama, like My dad was involved in different businesses, and we were going to do all these different things together. I'm making life-changing money, man. You know, like I lived in the same building as Oprah. Like she was a floor down from me. I'm like, hey, Miss Oprah, like literally leaving the crib, going to a game. Like, wow, I'm in the same building as Oprah. Like, and it's a dope building.
Yeah.
So then for all that to kind of go away, and I rented a house literally next door to Coach. It was just one of the toughest things I've ever had to go through in my life because I had to live with my own misery of what I had done.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a plan, man.
Yeah. I
was kind of just floating aimlessly.
Yeah. So after that, a few years down the road, you get the ESPN. What's that journey been like going through ESPN, you know, starting a new career on television? What has that been like kind of going through the ranks, ESPN all the way up to, you know, now you got your own show?
It was really hard at first because I was doing some dumb ass games.
Yeah.
I was making $35,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the hardest parts was, you know, I was only a couple of years removed from playing college ball. So, you know, people will still recognize me, but people would also be like, you know, I still kind of had like a limp. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just such a dichotomy, Dre. Like I went from, okay, like, yo, we want to go to Vegas tonight, let's get the plane, to a couple of years later, going to Oxford, Mississippi to call a game and walking through first class, limping like to the back of the plane, you know, to the B seat in between two people with my crutches, like, you know, trying to hype up kids that I knew I was still better than. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, yo, why would I hype this dude up? Like he ain't that nice.
Yeah.
But I think it was hard for me because I still wanted to play for the longest time. I tried to come back and play. That didn't really work. But I think I really started to take it seriously when I started to get called out. And Doug Gottlieb, you know, one of the most talented guys there was in college basketball, still is. Literally, I felt like embarrassed me a couple of times because I didn't know what I was talking about. It's like one thing, like, you know, Jay, if we're talking about the NBA and I'm asking you about the Sacramento Kings, like if I'm on air with you, like if you don't know what you're talking about, I'm not going to expose you on national TV. Like I'm going to be the fam to you, like after the show's over, like, yo, Dre, look, man, like this team is led by De'Aaron Fox, like Buddy Hield, like it might not work out with him long term, like he might be traded. Like, I'm going to talk you through what's happening. Like, yo, you need to put in a lot more work. Like, don't put yourself in these type of positions. Mm-hmm. Whereas I felt like for me, Doug Gottlieb tried to call me out, but I didn't spend all my time studying the nuances of every team in the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big East and the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Like, I didn't know all that shit. Mm-hmm. But I felt like he tried to embarrass me. And I think that's for me, like when it really clicked, like 25, 26 ago, I'm going to take this shit seriously. Mm-hmm. Because you ain't going. It was almost like I felt like I was as a player again.
Yeah. You became a competitor again.
Yeah, like, oh no, like, okay, oh, you're the guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, like, okay, like this guy's the guy up here. Okay, cool. Like, I started getting targets, and I think I started building things out and then studying it. And then I think once I learned the nuances of how to do TV, and I felt comfortable with the knowledge, then I started to learn how to be myself, which is a whole other process, right? Yeah. Feeling comfortable to speak how you would speak or want to do things the way you would like to do them.
Yeah. So then you get to College Game Day.
Yep.
And you have your signature Superman kind of jump. Where did that come from?
Man, that, like, yo, the best form of flattery is imitation, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Dude, that came from the real College Game Day show. You know, it came from my man Lee Corso put it on the hats. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I would watch it because I also love business, Trey. So I'm like, man, damn, like Home Depot is a major sponsor. Like, how much is Home Depot paying ESPN per year? What kind of brand activations is Lee Corso doing? Mm-hmm. Because he came up with this shtick, right? He's known for this shtick at the end of the show. And I paid attention to College Game Day basketball, and it was a good show, but there was nothing that nobody kind of played to the crowd. Mm-hmm. Nobody kind of created like these energetic like moments. So I'm like, man, Lee Corso's doing that. Like, I got it. I'm just gonna rip off my shirt and reveal the team and not care where I'm at. Like, I was at Duke and I picked Carolina, right? Like,
yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
As you roll your eyes to me.
Yeah.
But then I was like, yo, I'm just gonna mess with people. I'm gonna have fun. Like, that's when I recognized, like, oh, like the E in ESPN does stand for entertainment too, right? Mm-hmm. Now that didn't sit well with some people, Duke and Coach K sometimes, but also, like, I also recognized when I was at that point, Dre, for a long part of my career, I'm like, yo, Duke's gonna win the game tonight because of this. Mm-hmm. And people would kill me online. You're a Duke homer, you always pick Duke, right? So in my own mind, like, it got to me a little bit. I'm like, maybe I need to kind of pick against Duke sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So now I would pick against Duke and be like, oh, this is 3 weeks in a row he picked against Duke. Even though if Duke had been like 1-3, I'm like, oh, like, you're trying too hard to show like you're not one of us anymore. I'm like, yo, I'm damned if I do. Mm-hmm. I'm damned if I don't. Mm-hmm. Like, I might as well not care and just tell you actually what I really think.
Yeah.
Like, not holding any allegiance. So I think after a while, like 5 or 6 years, I got comfortable to the point where I was like, all right, like, yeah, the entertainment side, I started working with brands to build it out. And I started just telling people how I really felt, regardless of how they felt.
Yeah. So how many were you actually ripping the shirts up? Like, how many shirts are you going through doing that, man?
I was going through 2 shirts a week, man. But I mean, look, the best investment is when you invest in yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, like, I didn't even have a shirt deal, but I was like, look, man, I gotta get this $9.99 shirt from Walmart. I gotta do it. It might be extra baggy, but I was penning it, making it tight, trying to make it seem like it was fitted. You know what I mean? And then throwing it out when it was over. But
yeah, it
was my shtick, man. That's how I started to get known.
So just one pick in particular, 2010, Carolina at Duke. Carolina's about 500. Duke is 30-5 or something like that. How did you come up with Carolina's going to go to Cameron and beat Duke that year?
Who won that game?
Duke did by 33. I think it's still the biggest blowout in Duke Carolina.
Are you sure I picked Carolina that game? I'm not sure. I need to see footage from 2010. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because I'm pretty sure it was a conversation in the locker room post game. Like, what the hell is Jay doing, man?
For me to sit up here, Dre, and act like there were some times like I didn't know, man. Like, I always threw records out the window when it came to that rivalry, because I knew how intense it was.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm also not gonna lie to you. There was also a part that sometimes, like, I liked messing with Duke, man.
Yeah.
Like, it was fun for me because, like, everybody got so sensitive around it.
You're gonna get a reaction.
But I think around like the 2009, 2010 era, like, all my picks, like, see, I'm a little bit crazy, man. Like, during that time, like, a lot of my picks were wrong. So the team that I usually picked to win ended up losing. So there'd be a lot of times, like, where, like, I would get on that train. I'd be like, look, man, yeah, Carolina's going to win. Please win. Please be their head in. Please let this be true. And then if Duke will win, people are like, oh, yeah, we told you we're going to win. I'm like, yeah, you guys are right.
Yeah. You're doing a little reverse psychology.
So, like, for me, like, it was like almost like a game I started playing myself. Like, but like, I never took any of that stuff personal. But that's crazy. Like, I try to think about myself as a player. Like, I always took that stuff personal as a player. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it's part of the gig, bro.
Yeah, no, I know, I understand, man.
Look, y'all talked about that in the locker room.
I'm pretty sure we brought it up. But it's whatever. We won the game. That's all that matters. Who cares who anyone picked? No one picked us to win the championship that year either. So,
dude, that was one of the most magical seasons I think Duke has had.
Yeah,
I think you guys really went on one of the most magical seasons Duke has ever had.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was special.
Yeah, for sure. Because basically played 5 guys most of the years.
Yes, y'all did.
Which is
Yes, y'all
insane.
did.
But yeah. So now, 2021, got your own show.
Yep.
So what is it? Have you thought about that? Like, especially in that time slot, for me growing up, that was Mike and Mike every morning, and going to school, with my dad, we're listening to Mike and Mike. I'm about to get in the car. I'm like, oh, I wonder what Mike and Mike are talking about the game last night, this, that, and the third. So, have you thought about that, like having that time slot and kind of taking over, like for Mike and Mike, who are icons at ESPN?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. First off, I mean, there's some drastic differences, man. Like, Key and I are 2 African Americans on a morning talk show. Like, and Zubin is brown, right? Like, that's a really big difference. And I think one of the things that we've been trying to do is not be afraid to share our experiences, even though our experiences are drastically different from the set of experiences that the last couple of co-hosts have had, right? Dre, you and I look at things differently as opposed to a middle-aged Caucasian man.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just the reality of the matter, right? And if that relates to athlete empowerment, speaking more from the athlete perspective, being able to address issues that are uncomfortable, like, I think that's how we're trying to change the game. And I think that's important. I think it's important because, a lot of people will say, oh, like Kyrie made this thing about, it's funny, even how like you have to think through how you articulate a point of view to your audience. Like, a lot of our audience is in the middle of the country. So you can imagine when issues like George Floyd came up, people didn't want to hear your perspective on that.
Right.
They didn't want to hear it, right? Even if it was affecting basketball, like, oh, look, ratings are down. All these players, Black Lives Matter. How can you support that movement? All these different things. People weren't used to having context. So for me now, it's like, how do you change the wording in order to make it somewhat less abrasive, but make people still understand it? So I'll give you an example. Like last night, and I agree with him, Kyrie posted a picture of Kobe. He's like, yeah, I want Kobe to be the logo, right? And he's like, Black Kings built the league. So like, there are 2 things there. One thing is Kobe logo, right? Which I'm like, yo, I'm all for Kobe logo. Like, I'm with it. But then there's the polarizing comment. Black Kings built the league. Now, regular fans say, what do you mean? Why does it always have to be race?
Right.
Right. But for me, I'm like, well, a lot of Black players did build the league.
It's true. It's a true statement.
I mean,
I was talking to my wife about this same thing last night. And I was like, it's interesting because it's like you mentioned, it's polarizing, but should it be? Because it's a fact.
Fair. But when that's in the post, and you can't provide context to it, think about things on social media. Millions of people will see that reverberate through social media, whereas 0.05% of those people will hear the full context of what Kyrie meant at a post-game presser a day later, or a night later. So for me, it's like, how do you say? I'm like, yes, like, and I like try to expound upon it, like on ESPN. I'm like, yes, like, a lot of Black players did build the league, but that's not my reason for having Kobe as a logo. It's because he's Kobe. It's a Kobe thing. So like, because we live in a world now where like you can't have 2 competing thoughts in your head at the same time. Like, it's you have to be one or the other, right? And that's
for sure.
That's not how life works, man. Like,
no, not at all. A lot of gray area in real life.
Yeah, man. 2 things can be like, yes, Black players can build a league and be kings of the league, and yes, Kobe can be the logo at the same time. Like, those 2 things can live in the same space. You just have to find the depth to understand that. So I think sometimes now being able to go on my platform, like, yo, like, let me explain this. And try to give it a different meaning. Like, I feel like that's important, man. I feel like that's important. So I love what I'm doing, and it gives me a platform to keep building out my businesses and things that I'm involved in. So it's a hell of a wake up time every morning at 2:30 a.m.
That was my next question, man. You're on air at 6. So you said you get up at 2:30?
Well, yeah, because I can't stay up to watch all the games. It's wild. People are they're like, oh yeah, like the Jazz and the Lakers play tonight, primetime game, ESPN, 10 o'clock. Yo, it's 7:30. I'm like, yo, I need to go to bed.
Yeah.
So the only way I've known how to do it is like if I wake up like at 2:30, 2:45, and I go on League Pass and I watch the game back on League Pass. I can fast forward commercials and kind of like take my notes, watch a couple of games, watch a lot of highlights, like read articles for an hour. So by the time we get to 5:15, we're having our pre-production meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been up for 2.5, 3 hours. Like I'm ready. Like I have this whole book I have, like it's all the sports. I got NFL, hockey, basketball, baseball, like it's crazy. Like, but I have to put in that time in order to know what I'm talking about so I can provide context.
Yeah. What's your favorite non-basketball or football sport to watch?
My favorite non-basketball football sport to watch is probably like I love watching football, like European football. Just because my wife played soccer at IU. Mm-hmm. I love teams like Arsenal. And that's on early Saturday morning. So what happens now is like the Premier League, stuff like that. Like I can't turn off that switch, man.
Yeah.
Like, so there'll be times I'll be trying to sleep until like 4:35. Like I'm just up.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, being able to watch things that are happening over in Europe and tap in is probably one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's cool. So last time I saw you in Durham, you were still handing out buckets for people who don't know.
On one leg?
Yeah, Jay can still get buckets on the one leg. So are you still hooping up there at the ESPN campus?
Man, you know what? I got, and congratulations, because, you're having one. I have a child.
Yeah.
And, my daughter's 2. And I have a little son on the way, Zane David, due April 5th. So I'm not hooping as much because my body ain't built for it, Dre.
I hear you.
I can't. Real talk. I have a punching bag downstairs, and I went and I boxed yesterday. I've been sore for 2 days, yo. Like the response rate ain't the same.
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, man. Like we've been spoiled, man. Like when I work out and I come back to the crib and I'm like, yo, how am I gonna ice?
Yeah, I know that feeling, man. I know that feeling.
I mean, having like a little Dixie cup with the ice. Rubbing it on.
I'm used to Jose. Give me 2 bags. Throw 2 bags on me.
Yeah, let me get that stem. Let me get that treatment. I got nothing, man. I got nothing. So if I don't have the resources, man, I ain't trying to do it. I ain't trying to do it.
So you mentioned, I'm expecting our first child in April.
Congrats, man. I love that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Exciting. So how did having your first child, your daughter, kind of change you and change how you looked at the world?
Changed everything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I know your wife for a while too. And she's incredible. Like it just, like you guys now will come together more than you ever have before, and you end up doing everything for your child. Mm-hmm. Like it just gives you a completely different outlook. And there's certain things too, like I don't think I've ever been one of these people, but I think I was a little bit maybe more lenient to letting people just say what's on their mind without kind of imposing. Are you having a boy or a girl?
Boy.
Okay, you're having a boy. So like I have a girl, right? First, so like, sometimes when you're with your boys, like, I never found myself like sometimes guys will talk about women in different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before, like I would never stop them. Like I wouldn't say about it. I just never like, oh, you guys, whatever. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, yo, shut up. You're an idiot. Don't speak that way. Like that could be my daughter, man.
Right.
Like it's different. It makes me think too, like about how like selfish I was before. Like not that I was doing it maliciously, but I wanted to do what I need to do for me. Mm-hmm. And now it's like I'll have a long day at work and it don't matter how tired I am. When my daughter runs up to me, she's like, Dada. Like, if I don't give her my attention and my time, I'm cheating her and her growth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, okay. So there'll be a lot of days I'm like, yo, Jay, when's the last time you did something for yourself? It might be a while, but it's also really rewarding that I'm giving to something that I know I'm going to see the dividends on for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's a game changer, man.
Yeah.
It's my little girl. I'm a girl's dad, man.
Yeah. I feel you. So I know you do a lot of you're in a lot of different things outside of just, your day job.
Yeah.
Why is it so important to have that diversification and financial literacy, especially for, any young athletes listening?
Well, when are you dropping this?
Next week.
What day?
Probably Wednesday.
Is that the 3rd?
I think so.
It's the 3rd.
Yeah.
So a day after you drop this, I'm dropping something pretty massive that I'm sitting on the board with.
Okay.
Because that financial literacy aspect of it is very important.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Dre, obviously that decision altered my life in a lot of different ways. But, if it's being part owner of the boardroom with Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman and building out what that looks like from a sports business perspective and building that into a full-fledged business. If it's, sitting on the board of this entity that's going to drop on March 4th. If it's, one of the things that I had to deal with a lot after my accident, I never really understood the process was insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Never really understood insurance until I had to file for it because of my accident. So investing in insurance companies, working on creating a SPAC, start a restaurant in New York City. Not saying that's the best investment, but it's still a small restaurant. And we've been able to really change throughout the pandemic. It's about, if you have a platform, are you thinking about legacy and are you thinking about generational wealth, right? Doing TV, I could create that to a degree. But what's happening to linear TV, man? It's becoming less and less and less.
Yeah.
Right? Executive producing things, creating shows, working with different brands on what their strategies are, direct to consumer. Like I invested, one of the first investments I ever did was into this procurement agency where we work with brands. So like, hey, if one of the projects we have with this island called Necker Cup with Richard Branson. Right. So finding like Amex to be one of the sponsors for the Necker Cup, like, our company will receive, a 20% fee for the longevity of the deal. Right. Like working with brands, building brands into content, finding a way to really capitalize on where the media game is right now, understanding where it's going, but still kind of being at the forefront of that and bringing deals to athletes, really creating like your own business portfolio, man. That's important. And utilizing your network to do so.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's why you go to college. You go to college to get a network, right?
Mm-hmm.
Duke provides an incredible network. So as long as you're doing the right thing by people and it's thoroughly thought through, that's the whole point of playing for a university like Duke in order to build something with longevity out of it.
Right. Absolutely. I appreciate you talking about that a little bit.
All good, man.
So we've gone over, so I'm gonna let you go. But before I let you go, we got to get your Duke starting five and a six man to win one basketball game. I need a starting five and a six man. Who are you taking? And you can't just say your 0-1 team.
Yeah. All right. Kyrie.
Okay.
I'm not going to put myself on this list.
Why not?
I hate when people do that. I hate it. And I did it like 10 years ago, and I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. Kyrie.
Okay.
G. Hill. Jason Tatum.
Okay. I think your second guy was put JT on there.
JT. I'm going to rock with him just because I've never seen somebody grind away to Nolan. Because I'm on that backcourt.
Yeah.
And I go with Battier.
Okay.
I'll go with Shane.
Who's your sixth man?
I'll have Zion come off the bench.
Good grief.
I'm gonna have Zion come off the bench. You imagine Zion coming off the bench? You're like, wait, you coming off the bench? What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I don't know if that's allowed, man. That wouldn't be too fair.
Well, like, I'm gonna use Zion the right way. You know what I mean? Like, are we talking college Zion or are we talking NBA Zion right now? Because I just want to make sure I manage Zion's minutes right.
College, yeah, it's college only. It's college only.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah, that'll be a formidable squad for sure.
It'll be a tough squad.
Yeah. All right, Jay. Appreciate you coming on today, man. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. Get a little nap in or something if that's what you do. I know you've been up for a while now.
Much love and respect, Ray. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. And congratulations again on your son, man. You guys pick a name? Or you're not telling nobody?
Yeah. We got a name, but we'll announce when he gets here.
Yeah, first one. I'm down. Congrats, man.
Appreciate it, man.